Hello to all our subscribers and viewers everywhere. I come by the seaside, as you can see behind me, to have a little bit of a chat with you about the meaning of dumb money. What exactly is, or who are the dumb money, the herd? Let's talk about that. All right guys, so welcome back. Today I'm speaking from South Wales in the town of Mumbles, which is a really picturesque and quaint little town. I highly recommend you come and visit here. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the meaning of dumb money, or essentially the herd. Because we talk about this when we talk about the markets, whether it's Bitcoin, stock markets, or gold. And we often ask the question, well, what is the dumb money doing today? What is the dumb money thinking? Or what is the herd thinking? But the question is, who exactly are the dumb money? Who is the herd? By the way, I apologize if this video shakes a little bit. I'm holding this camera on a little bit of a tripod. But anyway, here's the thing. I want to tell you how I used to answer this question about who is the dumb money. You see, many years ago, I used to think, wrongly by the way, the definition of dumb money was anyone who was not an institutional trader. So I used to think, and again, this is what generally everybody else believes as well. I think in the mainstream, a lot of people believe, as I used to, that the definition of dumb money is simply anyone who is not an institutional trader, anyone who is not a professional trader or investor. So that means dumb money could mean the retail investor, the retail trader, your average Joe in the street, for example. However, guys, I've come to change my mind about this. I think this is a very snobby and I would say elitist view of what is dumb money. I actually don't think that's correct anymore. Because if that's true, that's rather unfair, because it actually makes a lot of people under the umbrella of dumb money. I don't think it's correct. So in a few moments, I want to play for you what Cohen, my good friend and also a leading expert on options, what he thinks about what dumb money is. He's going to give you a really good example of this. Before we go on to that interview with Cohen, let me give you what I think is the dumb money. And in fact, I'm going to get some help here from our good friend Jason Goepfert. Jason Goepfert of Sentiment Trader, who by the way is one of the world's experts on sentiment or human emotions when it comes to the markets. Here's how he defines dumb money. He says, I'm going to read you this. He says, it's a pejorative term, so it's not a nice term, it's rather a negative term. And he says it's a shorthand for those investors who use a trend-following strategy. Now, Jason does say there's nothing wrong with being a trend follower. There's nothing wrong with having a trend-following strategy. But here's the issue. Here's the major problem. The issue arises when they, in other words, those investors, become so confident that they establish their largest long positions after markets have rallied hard, and their smallest, in other words, their smallest long position after markets have declined. And he says, it's only because they tend to be their most exposed near market peaks and least near bottoms is why they're classified as dumb money. And I think that's by far the best definition of what is dumb money. And guys, I think Jason is absolutely on the money here, has absolutely nailed it. Because essentially what happens is, when the price rallies hard, becomes over bullish, overextended, overbought, that usually is when certain types of traders or investors finally decide to get in, and these guys put their most aggressive, their largest long positions at that point, usually just before the price reverses and drops. We saw this with Bitcoin, by the way. As Bitcoin was getting above 50,000 to 60,000, suddenly we see the kind of people who would never think about getting into Bitcoin, people who had no interest in Bitcoin whatsoever. I remember I was getting some text messages from friends asking me, hey Alessio, where's the place you can buy Bitcoin? Which exchanges can you buy Bitcoin from? And that was amusing to me because they had never shown any interest in Bitcoin or crypto before. By the way, guys, if you suddenly hear family members of yours who had never shown any interest in Bitcoin or crypto suddenly asking you whether they should buy Bitcoin, that's a good sign as well. Perhaps we're reaching that kind of herd mentality, dumb money kind of stage in the market. I'm not being rude to our family members. All I'm just saying is that's usually a sign of a sentiment extreme, of a bullish extreme. So as Jason Goepfert was saying there, essentially what happens is that dumb money usually place their strongest and more aggressive position at the worst possible time, right when the price is overbought, over bullish, and overextended. By the way, the exact opposite is true too. Usually the dumb money gets extremely scared and very bearish right at the worst possible time, right before a major bottom. We saw this, for example, last year in 2020. For example, when the stock markets crashed, the S&P crashed by 34%. You remember that the money managers, suddenly they panicked and exited the market. As you can see from this chart shows that those guys essentially sold, they panicked, and they got extremely bearish. These are the guys who went on CNBC and Bloomberg saying, yeah, we're looking for the market to go even lower. And that's another sign of dumb money sentiment. Again, anyone, this could be anybody. It could be professional traders, it could be institutional traders, or your average Joe trader, the ordinary person in the street. So essentially what happens is the dumb money is when people, anybody who gets extremely bearish at the worst possible time. When they get extremely negative and bearish, right when price is extremely oversold, over pessimistic, and potentially getting near a major bottom. So guys, I think we have to be careful about how we define dumb money, because I think it's very elitist and snobby to say, oh, dumb money is anyone who is not an institutional trader. As we have seen for ourselves, Wall Street are the biggest dumb money on the planet. I mean, these guys downgraded the stock market at exactly the point it bottomed out last year. And by the way, you probably heard what Guy Cohen said about his Wall Street friend, who essentially told him that Bitcoin is a piece of garbage, get away from it as much as possible. Well, of course, I'm paraphrasing here. I think that's another good example of how Wall Street people can be extremely wrong, and yes, the dumb money as well. So let me play for you now what Guy Cohen told me in the interview I did with him about what he thinks is the dumb money. Listen to this and we'll come back.
I've never actually said the words dumb money. That's the first time I've actually said the words. So
what about herd? What do you say? Herd mentality? Or
well,
what do you say?
We talked about crypto earlier. Herd mentality is when something's gathering momentum and it's really about the fear of missing out.
Right.
And the herd starts to become a stampede at the point where they think they're very, very scared of missing out. And that's where the market gets that crescendo.
Right.
And it's almost like running, like the cartoon. It's running. It goes off the edge, and then the legs are still paddling, and then it looks back and there's nothing underneath. That's really that kind of, that's what you call the herd mentality, really. It's okay being part of the herd if you're in early enough, but if you're in too late, that's when it becomes a problem. In terms of dumb money, I think I agree with you. There's an awful lot of old boys club, old boys network in the city, and I've actually spoken to many people in Wall Street, in the city. My professional clients to whom I provide trading systems and portfolios, they all agree. There's a lot of quite limited talent, if we could put it that way, in positions of managing money. They don't know SHIT. It's amazing, but it's an old boys network, and that's the truth of it. Like you say, dumb money is not something I've ever said. A better way of saying it is ignorant money. It's money that is placed with ignorance. So, for example, you could have a punt on crypto, on biotech stocks, on anything. And if you know you're having a punt, it's a bit of a gamble, it's like betting on a horse, okay. That I wouldn't call dumb money necessarily, because you know what you're doing. You've got a small allocation of your portfolio which is that kind of high risk stuff, or stuff you don't necessarily know particularly well. Whereas if you are doing too much of your pot on that wouldn't be very sensible. If you're putting 80% of your investable pot into high risk stuff of which you have zero understanding, you don't have any trading plan, that wouldn't be very smart. So I guess there are different ways of calling it dumb. It's the people who got lucky, and then there were people who haven't got so lucky because they got in when the fear of missing out, the FOMO, was at its absolute most frenzied, and they invested right at the top.
All right, guys, thank you very much for watching this video, and a big dabochi to all our Welsh friends, and I hope to see you guys in the next video update. Cheers, guys. Bye now.